Hello YouTube, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Kevin and this is Red Pilling. Are you red pilled yet? Are you red pilled yet? Because in a world where common sense is no longer exists, it seems, and a world that's getting crazier, getting more red pilled by the day. And the latest events that we've seen unfold in LA, with the riots and the in regards to is definitely sad to see. And this video is more specifically addressing this issue among a church, around the Christian circles, because again, it is the most divisive issue, and I think we've dealt with. Really divisive. And I think it's sad because it should be something we all are in agreement on, but again, it really depends on where you get your source of truth from, and there's a lot of Christians who I don't believe get a good source. And yes, they exist, even some who attend church regularly. It's a problem. Now, I think most lean conservative on this issue in regards to, supporting the rule of law, become legally stuff. But it's the liberal ones on this issue definitely are loud, especially online. They make their presence known. And my big concern is how many Christians might sympathize with these they call them anti-ICE protests when they're actually riots. How many of them are going to make excuses for this? It would not surprise me if they support it, because, well, look how they kind of made excuses for the George Floyd riots in 2020. These riots have George Floyd type riots, and they're from the same group, the same funders. I do think BLM lost its popularity, so they kind of are faltering now. So I do think you're now getting a new BLM, and that's these immigration people, illegals. They're going to start making a new movement, kind of, immigration rights. That's going to be the new BLM. And it has a BLM atmosphere, what you're seeing. Burning down cities, and it's probably going to continue in other cities than just LA if things do not change. Someone doesn't tackle this. Fortunately, we don't have leadership willing to do anything about it. In these states where they're ran by Democrats, I mean, thankfully Trump and Holman are not messing around, and they're taking action on this. So anyway, I made a video on this the other day, so go look at my last video. I made more detail about the LA riots. But so getting back on topic in regards to the Christians, I remember when on BLM with George Floyd, you had people, particularly white Christians that are probably moderate, but are kind of liberal on the immigration issue, or outright leftist Christians that would outright put black squares in their profile picture in the support of BLM. And I'm like, yeah, that does so much for the black community, right? You virtual signal by just changing your square black, as if that has any improvement on black lives. Yeah, you did a good job there. Good job. You did such an accomplishment. And you had to make excuses. I remember I could not get a straight answer by some of these Christians that would outright, when you ask them a simple question, do you condemn these riots? Looting, setting things on fire, assaulting people. They couldn't give me, some of these Christians couldn't give me a straight answer. So I guess anything but I condemn these must mean they condone it. Right? It's sad. And you have to wonder, how many of you guys are going to, how are you guys going to justify these anti-ICE riots? Because all I'm seeing on X right here, which I think these come from Christians that are left, saying, "Oh, how no Christian could literally support what ICE is doing right now." One's like, "FI, you can't call yourself a Christian and be cool with what ISIS and DHS are doing in our country right now. If you stop calling yourself a Christian, Jesus, so you'd be opposed to this." Yeah, I love when some of these people try to tell us what we are allowed to think and be and what's Christian or not. Yeah, don't you just love when they tell you what you can and can't be for the people that say they're tolerant of diverse beliefs, but when you happen to be, when you happen to support something they disagree with, they just say, "Oh, you can't be that." Interesting. And I love when they try to put Christ in a plastic box, this box, and thinking that he must agree with me on this. Now while we're talking about that, I'm gonna give some verses in context. Okay. So this is the verse the left love using. There's many verses in here in regards to immigration and stuff like that. That I guess you could say reference towards immigration, but this is the one that's the most. These two are specifically the most. This one's the most reference that left love using. So here we are. So here's one that says Leviticus 19:33-34. When a stranger sojourns you with your land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns you with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. What sojourns you? Sojourns, I think is what it's called. What it said, how you say it accurately. So yeah, I could agree that it's maybe saying because I think it refers to they were strangers in Egypt, they were slaves. So I think God's saying you know what it's like to be a stranger, so respect them if a stranger comes in. But it's not saying that you can't support immigration laws or that immigrants don't have to, or refugees don't have to obey our laws because they don't like them, or that Christians say that immigrants are allowed to disobey them because if you don't like what they're doing. Well, no. And there's a difference between stranger and refugee. These people as well, and there's a difference between invaders and a stranger. And these people that we see in LA, they're not even strangers; they're invaders. They're people not supposed to be here. You have like nationalists. I guess to be a little politically correct, I'm not going to say the country right now, but I'm at least going to say the country down south of us, waving their nationalists from that country, Mexico, are waving their flag. And nationalists, people that were not here legally, are waving their flag, trying to act like they've conquered the United States. That's what they're doing. And that's what the riots are for, is also to intimidate us that, this is our country. Like they're taking over. And that's what they were doing to us. So anyway, I don't know. There's a difference between strangers and invaders, and these people are not strangers, they're invaders. Strangers generally have at least respect for the laws and respect, and we show mercy to the stranger, but there's a big difference between a stranger and an invader. And even the stranger, well, they should still obey our laws. So that's Leviticus 19:33-34. So go look that up if you want to see it for yourself. But that's one the left loves using as a way to guilt you for not supporting their cause. And they love to use "love thy neighbor." Reading a book right now about that, how that's their phrase now, "love thy neighbor." Even though there's more than one way to love your neighbor, you have to do it their way, or you're not Christian, they say. And there's a lot of people in the church that tell me that. I've been told that before by some people. So another one. So Deuteronomy 28:43 to 53. I'm not going to read it the whole thing right now. Deuteronomy 28:43 to 53. I might I'll link it at the bottom so you guys can read it. So I have a reference to read later if you want to read the rest of it. But just for the sake of time, I'll give a little summary. The Bible is the God's specifically talking about the judgment of Israel, because God's judgment. We in Deuteronomy, through all the Old Testament, you have cases where God does judge nations, and He did allow nations to be conquered by the invaders, the outsiders. He even had Israel sometimes get overtaken when they, didn't do what they were called. And He called Israel to take out nations that were doing. Remember when they were doing idolatry, they were sacrificing their young? Yeah, He called them to be eradicated. He called them to wipe them out. So yeah, God has a judgment. So it's specifically talking about judgment. So making sure I say it in context. But I find it interesting though how it seems to, maybe it does reference that if there is consequences for allowing too many invaders in your country who don't assimilate and who don't really respect your values. That was the collapse of the Roman Empire. Invaders were part of why they was the biggest reason why they fell. One of the biggest reasons. So here's Deuteronomy 28. I'm just going to read 43 to 44 right now. It says, foreigners who live in your land will gain more and more power. While you gradually lose yours, they will have money to lend you, but you will have none to lend them. In the end, they will be your rulers. And yeah, right now, they're kind of overruling us right now. With we had 20 million people here that were not supposed to be here. You have those that are here, I think, that were simply here by overstaying visas. And you have those who just crossed illegally just because they wanted a job, they wanted a fast way to gain access, so they or citizenship, so they did it in the illegal way. So yes, and of course then you have the criminals that are also, it was a crime to break the law in the first place, but also committed actual other crimes, violent crimes. So yes, and with all the people in here, they are becoming almost like rulers because they're literally changing our culture. We have no culture or American identity right now at all because of that, because of mass migration. And this isn't even immigration, people. This is just lawlessness and allowing the outsider just to invade this country and change our sovereignty. There's a big difference. And in fact, I'm of the opinion, I'm kind of a minority in this, but I think all migration from third world countries till further notice should be abolished. I know Trump did that with certain countries in the Middle East. I think he needs to do that in places like Central America, maybe even Mexico, and might consider. I know he did it for Africa, but he might need any third world countries. Trump needs to consider a full moratorium for a while, at least for a while, because, like you said, they're not sending their brightest, and we need people. Should only admit people who love our country and that are going to assimilate. So I think if they're just going to break down our country through globalistic values and using third world people to do it, then no, we should not admit those people. So now I don't know. You can say if that's it. I don't know. Bible's not really clear on that opinion or not, so I'm not going to say that's anywhere biblical, but I do believe I'm allowed to have that opinion. And you have a right to disagree, I guess, on that, but that's what I think right now, because we are unstable right now and we have no identity. The globalists have totally broke down any sort of identity in America because they don't really believe America is a real identity. We're not a nation to them. We're just a piece of land that if you just happen to be on, you automatically get it too. And it's, we have natural rights that I don't believe any government could take away, but there are rights that the founders gave that were specifically for the people of this country to benefit from. The problem is the people who are coming don't really care about our values. They want to change them, and the Dems are using them as for power so they get stay in power, but also a means to change their culture, because they also can control these people easier. It's all about power, people. So yes, so going back to Christians, are you going to condemn so Christians that, again, to make sure I'm clarifying who I'm talking about, because there's a lot of Christians that are opposed to it. I think most of them are, but to the ones that somehow are trying to find a way to make excuses about this and say how this is somehow justified, because some do sympathize with this, give me one good reason why immigration without any sort of assimilation is justified. Why should any country take people without them at very most assimilating to our culture, which is respecting our laws and kind of emerging into the culture of America? Give me one reason why that's should be up for debate. Now, Hispanics, listen, they're very nationalistic. They're really proud of their race. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But why should they not respect our values? In fact, again, most Hispanics actually are moving right. But these specific ones in Los Angeles, they're not people who want to assimilate. And these are the left's voters that are trying to get to vote and overrule us. So, anyway, that's all I have for today. If you like this video, please like, comment, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. If I was wrong on anything, or if I'm right, or just let me know what y'all think. I like engagement. So, but this is what I think right now. And for Christians, we need to pray. And we need to stand up. And it's hard. The church can't stand up for basic, because loving your neighbor, the border is, supporting borders and sovereignty, I believe, is biblical. I do. Loving your neighbor, you don't leave the front door open, so you close your border, so you don't get traffickers, you don't get drug traffickers, you don't get those bad people in here. That's loving your neighbor. So why? And I pray that, the people who are deceived will see their error on this. So, anyway, like I said, like if you like this video, comment if you have anything to say. If you like the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Red Pilling out.